The original Super Paper Mario level ranking I did was such an ambitious video. I'm pretty sure it was my 150 subscriber special. It was insane. It was actually pretty fun to work on, but it took me 10 hours and the video was over an hour long. I am not excited to actually edit this video, but that's not really what matters to you guys. All that matters is I'm going to be remaking this video. All 32 levels will be ranked again. I've replayed through Super Paper Mario very recently for this list, and I'm very excited to actually show you guys what my new list is. But there is a couple of rules that we do have to talk about. First off, there's 32 levels in the game. I'm going to be counting 6-3 as the Void, even though it's technically counted as 6-1, but 6-1 is already a different level. So that's going to be 6-3, and 6-4 is going to be when Dementio sends you to hell. And that's really what I'm going to be counting as 6-4, because I don't really know what I count that level as. I mean, I guess you can count it as 7-1, but 7-1 is when you go back through the door once you restore the pure heart. So that's going to be 7-1. There we go, it's all cleared out now. So once you guys see those types of levels, you'll see. I'm not going to be counting any post-game. I'm not going to be ranking the levels where you have to fight all 100 Samurai guys. There's just no point in that. It's basically the exact same level, except the guys get harder. But the second rule is that I'm not going to be taking any bosses into consideration for this list. Mainly just because I want to talk about the levels just bare bones. Like, these are the levels, none of the bosses are going to be really taken into consideration. I may talk about them in the segment, but when I was doing the ranking, I did not think about bosses at all. But other than that, there's really no other rules. Let's get started with this video. But before we actually get started, make sure to subscribe. If this isn't a premiere for you, I really suggest subscribing because I premiere every single one of my videos. So if you want to make the premiere and actually talk to me while watching the video, that'd be very much appreciated. And also make sure to leave a like. I'd also appreciate that as well. But other than that, let's actually get started on this video. Seven 2 is a level that I have never liked. On my original ranking, I had it at the bottom 4 of the list. That's really bad, but it wasn't at the complete bottom. At least it still had stuff like the Underchomp and the Door guys that redeemed it for me personally. Well, not anymore. I think those things are not very good to me. I think the Underchomp is pretty bland and it takes a long time. And I also think the Door guys are the exact same thing. I think they're bland and they take a while. And the stuff that I had problems with are just huge in this level, and that's really the only things I think about at this point. I mean, obviously lighting up the place isn't really great to me personally. I'd rather just have the place lit up to begin with. I mean, I guess it gives use for Bowser, but I just see it more of an inconvenience than something that actually adds to the level. But the main thing I have a problem with, and I talked about this in my original ranking, I do not like the witches that teleport you all the way back to the beginning of the level. I think it's very annoying, and it doesn't add to the level in the slightest. The one that is mandatory and the one that gives you the key sends you all the way back to the beginning. And this level is not short. You have to go up a lot. And literally one of the rooms is just you jumping up, I'm pretty sure around like 50 stairs. It's so stupid. And you have to do this twice because of the teleportation. And 2 of them are not even necessary. So you can get teleported back for no reason. And it's just stupid. I don't like the level because of that. And that's the main problem I have. And that is why it is all the way at the bottom of the list. I have to repeat a level that I don't even like to begin with. And that just is not a good formula. I hate this level. This is the one level I genuinely hate from this game. And that is why it's at the bottom of the list. While I don't completely despise 4-1 like I do with 7-2, this level has a decent amount of problems. I don't like going through it. And honestly, I don't really like going through Chapter 4 for the most part, just because space is so annoying to control. Sometimes you're super floaty, but sometimes you can just move in a straight line and be completely fine. Also, being in 3D, it's super awkward to control. And honestly, it ruins a lot of Chapter 4. I don't personally like it. The controls are very clunky. But also, for specifically 4-1 and why it's so low on the list in combination with the bad controls, this place is a horrible place to navigate through. Where do you go? I don't know. I really don't. I just go through random portals and hope. I'm pretty sure that's what everybody does, because there's no sense of direction in this level. You just have to go through a normal portal and just hope you're making progress. That's really all this level is. There's no specific endpoint. All you do is just rescue Squirps at the beginning of the level, and I guess you gotta practice using them. You may have to defeat some enemies, but that's it. That's all you're doing in this level, and there's no way to actually know if you're going in the right direction. Which, in my opinion, that's just bad game design, and it's just very annoying to go through, especially for someone who's already beaten the game. Let's say you know the path. If you know the path, please tell me. That'd be very appreciated. But also, if you know the path, the level is going to take you like 2 minutes at that point, and it's just not going to be very enjoyable to begin with. But if you don't know the path, which I play Super Paper Mario a lot and I still don't know it, you're just going to be going through random portals and praying that you get it to the right one. It's just irritating. I don't like navigating this place, plus the bad controls. It absolutely deserves to be close to the bottom to this list. "5-1, the level that originally was at the bottom of the list, but it's not anymore. It's at the bottom 3, so it didn't improve that much, but I don't completely hate this level. That's good at least, but I really don't completely hate it because I played this game so many times and I know what to do. If this is your first time playing this level, may God have mercy on your soul. You're going to have such a rough time and it is not going to be fun. You have to ask this stupid crag that wants you to say please a ridiculous amount of times for the combination. And the combination is over 30 inputs long. I'm not kidding, and it's very irritating. There's one that has 3 inputs that you need. That one's normal, and that one is fine. But the other one is so stupid. Now, if you're normal and you know what you're doing, then you just look up a guide and you're good to go. You know what to do in 5-1 once you have the code. It's still annoying because if you enter one thing wrong, then you have to restart the entire combination, which is irritating because it's over 30 and it doesn't tell you when you're wrong, but it's just not as bad as going through that entire process to get the combination, and you have to write it down. It's not fun. I don't like it at all. It's very poorly designed in a game design perspective, but as a level, it's not as bad to go through as levels like 7-2 and 4-1, where you're genuinely struggling to make it through. At least with this level, it's just annoying to go through with the combination, but it's only 2 to 3 minutes long. So in that perspective, it's just objectively better than the 2 levels we talked about. Still bad, but just not as bad. Welcome to the top 30. Oh boy, it's time for me to talk about the level where you just fight 20 enemies and that's it. Okay, before I actually talk about this level though, I do want to make a comparison to Glitzville, my personal favorite chapter from 1,000 Year Door, because honestly, these levels are pretty similar. I mean, Glitzville is an enemy gauntlet, so is Sammer's Kingdom, but there's a lot of differences that just make Glitzville so much better. With Glitzville, there's a lot of insidious stuff going on in the background that just makes the story much more interesting. With Sammer's Kingdom, it's just battles. That's it, you're just fighting enemies. But with Glitzville, there's a lot of different types of enemies. But with Sammer's Kingdom, it's just the same samurai guys that only have minor differences. It's not very interesting. Also, the fact that 1,000 Year Door actually has a battle system where Super Paper Mario is just a platformer, it automatically is going to make 1,000 Year Door much better. At the end of the day, Super Paper Mario, it doesn't do a good take on this format. It just doesn't work. I mean, these battles are so bare bones, especially because you have Bowser. You could just use flames and the enemies are super easy to defeat. The enemies are very bare bones. The level is bare bones because of it, and once you get to round 20 and you see Count Black, the level is basically done with. I think this level is worse than 6-2, even though in 6-2, you're basically doing nothing. Because this level is so much longer, and it's so much slower. You have dialogue for each enemy, and it's just ridiculous. You still have to fight 20 guys. That still takes a decent amount of time. And because of that, I really just don't like going through this level. And it's why it drops so much from my original ranking. So this segment is going to be pretty short because 4-3 is basically just 4-1, but I actually know where I'm going and there's a clear objective. You have to get a double squirps, which is very odd. I don't know how the heck you're going to do that, but apparently a very expensive chocolate bar does it. I don't get it. Does it really matter to me? Not really, because I know where the shop is. If you don't know where the shop is, it's kind of annoying, but I mean, I do. That's why it's above 4-1. And, I mean, that's really it. I mean, the objective isn't really that creative either. Obviously, the controls of space are still pretty annoying to me personally. But there's really nothing else to this level. It's still just kind of bare bones, but it's not really that bad to me personally. It's the infamously bad level from Super Paper Mario! But not to me, because it's not at the bottom of the list, obviously, because I am a pro that just knows the code from the top of their head. I'm kidding, I don't. I have other things to think about, but also the fact that you could just look up the code and you beat the level, you're fine. That's all you need to do for this level. If it's your first time, it's a nightmare, but if you play this game multiple times, just look it up. You're not losing anything by not playing this level. But again, if it's your first time, you have to get 100 rupees, you have to go to a certain guy, get a code for the second room that makes rupees much faster. And then you have to do that for like 5 minutes, and then you go to a second guy that gives you the code for the safe, and then you do the thing that the pros did right at the beginning of the level. It's not fun. You have to do this. It's basically just an idle game where you do nothing. It's not very fun, like I mentioned. And obviously for beginners, they're not going to know about the codes, so because of this, it's pretty irritating. Also, I mean, you get Slim here, which I also found kind of weird. Why do you get a pixel in this level? You don't really do anything with pixels to begin with in this level, so it's just weird, but it doesn't matter. I mean, again, look up the code. If you played this game before, look it up. If you don't, it's on you. You're making the level worse for yourself. If you do, then you're kind of just in my park, where you don't completely hate the level, you just think it's badly designed, which I agree with. This level should not be in the game. It should have definitely been reworked to be much better, but for how it is for me personally, I mean, I don't completely hate it, it's just very flawed. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this level. 7-1 is when you enter through the Pure Heart door for Chapter 7. You've already been here, you already know what's going on, you just go to Queen JD's, you're good to go. That's all you do in this level. You talk. I mean, it takes a very short amount of time, which is better than the levels that we talked about, levels like 2-3 and 5-1, but it's not good because you don't do anything here. All the stuff that you did was already done in 6-4, so because of that, obviously it's not going to rank very high, and this is another short segment. I feel like the number transitions are going to be longer than the actual segments at this point. 6-2, all you do is walk. I think it's good build up to the void, and that's really it. Obviously, you get the cutscene where the void actually destroys the world, which is interesting, but not really interesting to me anymore. I think the void itself is more interesting to me nowadays than the void explosion, which, I mean, that obviously makes sense. So, that's really it in this level. You don't do any enemy fights, which obviously is a blessing. That's why I think it's better than 6-1. It takes a very short amount of time to beat this level, but obviously it's not great. You don't do anything here. It's definitely worse than levels that are going to be above this list, because again, you don't do anything. So because of that, it's going to be very low on this list. I don't completely hate 7-3. That's an improvement from last time. I don't think the level's great or anything, but I don't think it's terrible. My main problems last time was with the apples and it not being very obvious where each one is, which is kind of a problem, but again, there's kind of signs that show you where each apple is, and it is pretty easy to find every single one, and since I know which apples actually go to where, I'm good to go in that regard. My main problem with the level nowadays is that you can fall, like, completely, and it sucks. You can fall from that portion of the level, and you have to restart that portion all over again, and it's pretty irritating. I don't like it. I mean, obviously, restarting progress on a level is pretty annoying to begin with. I don't like 7-2 for that exact reason, but obviously it's at a smaller scale, but it's also due to your error, which is obviously pretty annoying, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the biggest problem in the world. It's why it's not at the bottom of the list. I mean, the music's fine. I think the apples is a decent enough concept. I mean, you getting launched into the air by the cloud was just kind of creative. Seeing outer space again was kind of a bad memory. I'm kidding, obviously, that doesn't matter to me. But, I mean, 7-4 just does the over there much better than 7-3. So because of this, 7-3 is only kind of just an level to me, personally. Two 2 feels like a very small upgrade from levels like 5-1 and 2-3 because you do a little bit of stuff in here if you know what you're doing, but it's not too much. I mean, the level really only takes 3 to 4 minutes. You have a little bit of boomer puzzles, and I mean, you have the huge dog, which is a positive for this level because it is big. And it is kind of scary, and it's probably the most notable thing, which, I mean, that's kind of good because it is important to the story, but it's not that important. And if that's the only thing that's notable about it, basically one enemy, that's pretty pathetic. This level is just really trying to build up how weird of a place Merle's Mansion is, but if you're a pro, you already know this, and to be honest, you don't really care. So because of this, the level is not going to rank very high on the list for me personally. It's very short, there really isn't much to it, and the dog really cannot save it too much. One 3 is kind of a bland level. The levels coming up next aren't really bad, they're kind of just generic levels. You could probably guess which levels are going to be coming up next, but 1 3 is a perfect example of this. The -1 puzzle is pretty stupid, so is the puzzle of just jumping under the red tree 10 times. I think that's just not great for new players, but for pro players, you already know this, you can just do it and speed through. But because of that, there really isn't much substance with the level. Obviously, there's the Chunks fight, but that's literally the only thing here. And I'm not even taking boss fights into consideration, so honestly, I don't really care about this level too much. There's nothing interesting. I don't think the music is that interesting. The wasteland looks fine, but there's nothing really interesting about it. I mean, that's it. It's just a very bland level that really doesn't have anything wrong with it. You can just zoom through without really thinking about it. You're just basically numbing your mind to this level. But it's not bad. It's definitely not. So it doesn't deserve to be at the bottom of the list at all. One 2 is also pretty bland. It's from the first world. What did you really expect? I mean, this level, it's not bad. I mean, there's a town. There aren't really that many towns specifically in levels. Obviously, there's flip side and flop side, but not specifically in levels. Those are pretty rare, so that's kind of interesting. But the pace is so slow in the first world that I'd rather just have no dialogue and just try to zoom to the good parts of the game. So the dialogue in this level actually hurts it a decent amount. Talking to Watch It, the bridge guys, I personally just don't care about it. The stuff before the town is fine enough, it's kind of forgettable, but I mean, there really isn't that much to it. And also, unlocking Throw is good. It's your first pixel and he's pretty basic. But, I mean, that's really it. And the level, like I said, is just kind of bland. Is it bad? Absolutely not. I just wish the pace was a little bit faster for this first world, so the dialogue didn't hurt it as much. I mean, again, not bad, just pretty bland. I honestly think it's a good thing to see that the tutorial level placed on the lower half of the list, because it shows that the upper half of the levels are better than the tutorial levels, more than half of them, which is great, because I honestly think 1-1 is like the borderline between the bad levels and the good levels. It's a good tutorial level, it teaches you what you need to do. I mean, you get the superstar in this level, you get some mushrooms, you get to learn how to flip in 3D, you don't really have many pixels, it's very basic, but it teaches you what you need to know well, and in that regard, it's not a bad level. It works for what it's trying to be, and in that regard, I really can't hate on it. And it has decent music, it looks cool, again, nothing really to hate on, it's just kind of bland, because it's the first level in the game, obviously, so you can't really do that much with it. So honestly, welcome to the good levels of the list, we're going to see some very soon. It feels great to stop talking about World 1 levels, but not really, because 2-1 is basically just an upgrade to 1-1, which is obviously a good thing. I like this level, it's decent, but it's not the best thing in the world. It's just kind of platforming. It's very basic, just like 1-1. I think 1-1 had better music, but I think 2-1 looks much better, and because you have Peach and Mario at this point, it's just much more interesting. You do a lot more stuff. Obviously, you can float with Mario, but you can also float with Peach. And I also think the platforming is just a little bit more difficult. There's just more to this level. You get to go into different places. I like it a bit more. There really isn't much to it, just like 1-1, but there's just a little bit of stuff that put it a little bit above. It's just that small upgrade that does put it one above 1-1, which honestly, that's enough for me, because it's definitely better than some of the levels in World 2, so that's all I can really ask for. Ever since the original list, 5-3 has just been very subtly but continuously growing on me, and I'm at a point where I genuinely do like the level. I think the music is very good, and I have no idea why I was slandering it before, and honestly, something I never thought I'd praise in just a video game in general, I really like the structure of this level. It's a straight line for most of it, that's the main room of the level, but it branches out into tiny paths that lead to the minecarts, which, yes, I don't really care about the minecarts. I still don't like them. You're basically doing nothing when you're riding them, and, I mean, you have to ride a decent amount of minecarts through the level, so in my opinion, they aren't great, but that's only a minor flaw in this case. I honestly just like saving the camera crew, it's a decent enough concept, and honestly, this feels like a blueprint for what a Super Paper Mario level should be. It doesn't really deviate from it to be better, it doesn't really do anything for innovation, but for how it is right now, it's a very solid level that I do enjoy going through, and honestly, that's good enough for me, and it's why it's number 18 on the list. It's the first level mentioned from the beloved Chapter 3, even though obviously 3-2, and I think a lot of people agree with this, is just not as good compared to the other levels in this chapter. I mean, it's solid enough, at the very least it has the good design that Chapter 3 has, and the good music, but everything else is just kinda I mean, it's a water level, which I don't think hurts it, because the main problem with water levels is the pacing being very slow, so the developers kind of just fixed this by just making the level shorter, which it doesn't completely fix the problem, makes the level indirectly worse because that means you can't really do as much with it, but it does somewhat fix that pacing issue, which I think was a good thing to do. I mean, obviously you unlock Thudley, which is a decent enough pixel. I mean, you can ground pound now, that's kind of cool, and there's like a couple of puzzles, but this level is kind of bare bones. This level is very much saved by the design and just the music. It's good enough to put it this high in the list. If not, we would be at the mid-20s right now, but it's not, which is why it's at the middle of the list right now. Anti-gravity! I mean, that's all this level is. It's just anti-gravity. I welcome you guys to the top half of the list, and we're talking about 4-2, the level that has anti-gravity and some platforming. That's pretty fun. And you want to know why? It's because of the anti-gravity. The plot of this level is very simple and kind of just boring. I mean, obviously you have to just get a piece of paper so its pixel can literally just wipe its butt. It's very weird, but I mean, it's not great. And obviously Philippe as a pixel isn't that great either. I mean, he's very situational, and you pretty much use him once through the level, and it's not very good in my opinion. But at the end of the day, guys, the anti-gravity, it's all that matters. The platforming is very fun, and you jump very high. And since you have carry, you can basically just jump wherever you want, and you won't get hit by stuff. You won't land on something weird, which is just great. And it's very fun to do so. And that's all that matters to me. And it's why it's so high on the list. I think the music is kind of just it's fine. The look of the place is fine. Just the anti-gravity. It's all that matters. It's what makes this level great. One 4 is easily the best level in Chapter 1. It's not close, obviously. The first 3 levels are very basic, while 1-4 actually has a lot to it. Not in the story department, but in the gameplay. There's so many puzzles in this level, which I totally forgot about. There's the big red button that's super memorable from this level. You have to flip into 3D a lot. And there's just a lot of keys going through this place. You have to go into different pathways to get these keys. And for this level, it works. You're really just trying to test every single ability you have learned in this game so far. And in that regard, it works really well. But if you have been paying attention to this list, this is the first mentioned -4 level. And if you're wondering what a -4 level is, it's just a level that ends in -4, like 2-4, 3-4, and in this case, 1-4. It's the first one mentioned, which means it's the worst one. -4 levels are trying to end the story that the chapter was trying to tell, and that makes those levels super memorable. But Chapter 1 has no story to it, and there really isn't any closure. It's just, you beat Fractal, you get to the end, you get the pure heart. So because of this, it makes 1-4 extremely unmemorable compared to these other levels. And because of that, it's easily the worst one. So because of this, it has to be a little bit lower compared to those other ones. It's still at the top half of the list. It's still a good level, but it's just nothing comparable to those other ones. "5-2 is another very simple puzzle level that also works, just like 1-4, but the reason why I actually think it's better than this level is because there's an actual objective that you need to do. With 1-4, it's just, you're at the start, get to the finish. At the very least with 5-2, not only are you unlocking Kudge, which is easily one of the best pixels in the entire game, but also the fact that you're trying to find the 3 runes. And they give you hints throughout the levels, and they're very clever ways to actually get them. One, you have to sink to the bottom of an ocean, one, you have to use Bowser with his flames, and one, you have to, I think, go around the Yoshi. Yeah, that's what you have to do. So there's some very clever way to get these runes, and then you have to find out the order, and then of course you unlock Kudge. Like I mentioned, he's a very good pixel. Again, a very simple puzzle level, but it works. Good music, I like how this place looks. It's kind of difficult with the enemies. Overall, I think this level is pretty good. It's why it deserves to be at the top half of the list. Hey guys, look, it's the end of the world. Is this level good in a gameplay perspective? It couldn't be worse. Is this level good in a story perspective? It kind of is, but that's not the main purpose of this level. The main purpose of this level is to creep you out. It's supposed to scare you. It's supposed to show you what you were trying to stop. The reason why you're actually playing this game. The world is going to be destroyed. And this is the destroyed state of it. One world got it, and here is its fate. It is so unsettling to just go through this place. It's just completely white, and there's nothing here. I mean, there's a little bit of debris just here and there, but it's so rare that it's just kind of creepy when you do see it. in that regard, it works so well. This was still creeping me out when on my recent playthrough. That shows how effective it actually is. Now yes, on a gameplay perspective, it's terrible. You're just moving right the entire time, and sometimes you're jumping. And it takes a while to get through this, but the longer the level goes through, it actually makes it creepier. And obviously it's not super long where you just get bored. The music is also really creepy. They did this level perfectly, but it's obviously not going to be better than the levels above this, because this level is nothing. I mean, it's really good on an atmosphere level, but everything else, it's really bad. So in that regard, it's not the best level in the game, but for what it's trying to do, it does a really good job. Five 4 feels like a combination of 1-4 and 5-3. Obviously 5-3 because of the music and how it looks, but 1-4 because of all the puzzles. And it's just very interesting to go through this place. And it just feels like an upgraded 1-4 because there's obviously the good music like I mentioned. There's a story here where you're trying to save the Crags from this place, and you get to see all the possessed Crags, which is pretty creepy. But also, just like 5-3, my favorite part about this place is the structure. It's a puzzle level, but the place is extremely small, so every little thing in this level is used to an extent. The first part of the puzzle is that you have to go to a pipe that spawns some fluoros, and you have to use them as weight and stand on a switch. It's very interesting. You also unlock Dottie in this level, which is a very interesting pixel. I think it's kind of underwhelming, but in this level it's used well. Dottie shrinks you, and I mean, you do have to use Dottie a decent amount in this level, and I like that. I also like the last room before you fight the boss. It's just, I mean, it's basically just a place that holds a lot of jewelry. It looks very fancy, and it just feels like a different tone. There's a lot of different places in this place. It's so weird. It feels like two levels that are combined into one, which in my opinion is very enjoyable, and it's why I like this level so much. There's so many good qualities to this level, and it deserves to be so high on this list. Six 4 feels like a very basic level on paper. You're really just platforming around as Mario, and then you unlock Luigi. Well, yes, but that's what I like about this level. After a ton of pixels that you unlock, a ton of characters, and using Tippy's ability, at the end of the day, this level is just a breath of fresh air. You're just platforming, and you can flip as 3D. It feels like you're back at the beginning of the game, and honestly, I just really like this part of the level. Also, I think that the ocean, where all those hands and the music changes, is really creepy. I like switching the water on and off when you're trying to unlock Luigi. I think trying to find Love Beat is a good enough plot for this level, and really, you're not really focused on trying to get to the end. You're just trying to get out of here, but you really don't know how. And that part, I really like. It doesn't really feel like you're going for another pure heart. And that change of story, again, feels like a breath fresh air. And that's really how I describe this level. This level is a breath of fresh air, and I really like it because of that. Is it technically worse than other levels that we've talked about? Yes, but I just really like the refreshing nature of this level, and that's why it's very high in this list. Coming into the top 10, we have 3-1. I love this level. It's so simple, but I really do like it. I kind of like it for the same reason as I like 6-4, but 3-1, it has a good excuse because it's just trying to treat itself as a normal Mario game. I really like the look of this place. I really like the music. I think the enemies are pretty good. I really like the underground theme. It's probably my favorite part of this level. It sounds really good. I really like what they did with the remix. I also like that you have to defeat Bowser's castle. It's such an interesting thing that you really would not expect from this level, but it kind of does make sense. You go through a grassland, then you have to go underground, and now you're at Bowser's castle. It's very interesting. You also get to fight Bowser, but again, not talking about that for this list. It's a very interesting level that's simple, but because it's simple and because of the theme that it's really trying to go for, it really does work, and that's why it's so high. I really do like this level. What a jump this level had from the original list. This was originally number 21, but now I have it at number 9. I really like this level. I don't think the music is great, but I really like how the over there looks. And the main problem I had was mainly with just trying to find the orbs. I thought the level design was not very good, and that's the main thing I didn't like about the level. But nowadays, I don't care about that. I really like this level because finding the orbs I thought was fun. And it's not, like, annoying to me anymore, and I think that's probably the main reason why, because I mentioned that I just felt like an idiot after. But if you explore everything, then you're gonna be fine. And it's different compared to a level like 4-1, because 4-1, you have no idea where you're going. At the very least with 7-4, you know where everything is completely. You may not know where every orb is, but you know where every room is, so you can explore each one. You're not gonna get lost, which is good, and that's why I'm fine with this level. It's really fun to find the orbs. I think the war right before the Bone Shield fight is really cool to watch, and at the end of the day, I like going through this level. I actually like finding the orbs, which is a huge change that I've had from the original list. It's kind of weird that I thought that originally, but honestly, I really do like this level, and it's because of those orbs. Three 3, well, a lot of levels on this list, but 3-3 teaches me that simplicity isn't a bad thing if the simplicity is fun. And that's what 3-3 is. I really like this level because of the simple concepts that it has. It uses a lot of your characters and all your pixels, but for me personally, it just makes the level more fun. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because the concept that's here is very simplistic. There's a red switch and a blue switch. You have to switch between the options, and there's different platforms summoned. That's it, but it just makes the platform more fun. That's really all you have to do, and you have to go to different lengths to actually get to these different switches, which again, makes the level more interesting. I like the music, I like how long it is because you're dealing with this platform a lot. If you fall, then you're not falling too much, which is great, and you also get to ride the wind at the end, which is just a fun thing to do. At the end of the day, it's a very simple level. The only reason it's not higher is just because it's simple. The top 7 have really good concepts and make me really remember them, while 3-3 is just a really fun level to go through, and that's all that really matters to me. This is a very fun level, and it's number 8 on the list. That's very good for a simplistic level, but it's being simplistic does hold it a little bit back. But for gameplay, when I'm just casually playing it, it's perfect how it is. I really do like this level. Fort Francis is so weird. I mean, that's probably the best part about this place, and that's what makes it so memorable. You have to do the dating simulator. It's very weird. You have to go into the weird fanboy rooms to get each of the keys, which is pretty memorable to look at. Finding the codes, it was hidden in a good place. And speaking of unlocking Carrie, the best pixel in the entire game, is a great thing to unlock here. And honestly, the place is just really odd, and it has good gameplay parts as well. Obviously, there's enemies in this place. You have to deal with the Francis fight, which I'm not taking into consideration. And, I mean, there's not too much here in gameplay, but it's just really weird to explore this place. It also has the good design of Chapter 3. It has some good music. Overall, it's a very solid place with some very unique concepts, and this place is just, it's just so weird. I have a lot to talk about with 2-4. After the not very good level of 2-2 and the awful level of 2-3, we are finally at one of my favorite levels in the entire game. 2-4 is where I genuinely think Super Paper Mario starts getting really good. This level is really fun to go through, and it's kind of weird because it kind of reminds me of 4-1. You don't really know where you're going. The only thing that's really labeled for each room is just room number whatever. Which, I mean, it's pretty easy to get lost in this level. But why do I like it? Well, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, because I know the pathway, so it doesn't affect me as much. But that's not the main reason for it. The second reason is because once you get into a certain room, you get to see Merly, quote unquote. No, it's actually Mimi, and she turns into the spider, and she's invincible. Now, that's scary. You literally can't kill her at this point. And she chases you throughout the entire level. And it's very scary, and you start panicking. You just want to go through each room so she doesn't start tracking you. That's what I like about this level. So, when you're lost, you're not really thinking about where to go. You're just trying to get to a different room so she stops chasing you. And that's the thing I really like about this level. You're not really thinking about where you're going to go, you're really just thinking about trying to escape Mimi. That's what I was thinking about. I kinda know the pathway, but that's not what I was thinking about at all. I was always up on my seat, just trying to realize, oh my god, I have to get out of this room before Mimi actually comes here. You can't kill her, so you just have to outrun her. And I was successful in that. You obviously have the Merly game show thing that was kind of interesting, and the weird fight that they had that I thought was really funny. At the end of the day, great level, great concept, really fun to go through. I love all these levels that are coming up. They're so fun, and 2-4 is no exception. Like I said, this is where Super Paper Mario starts to get really good. 4-4 is amazing to go through. It's my favorite puzzle level in the entire game. I mean, this place is very odd, just like Fort Francis. It's the woe zone. Before you were always in space, and now you're in this place with no anti-gravity, and it's very weird music as well. You're just very confused. And that's what I like about this place. There's so many weird enemies, there's so many weird rooms that you're going through. It's kind of like a fun house, and it's really fun. You don't lose where you're going here. It's kind of like 1-4, but a mega upgraded version. There's obviously some story here, but kind of like 1-4, you're trying to get to the beginning to the end. And I love the puzzle aspect of it so much. Very good rooms. Again, it's a very weird place to go through, but you never lose where you are. You never get lost. There's a ton of interesting secret rooms in this place. Overall, a very fun level to go through. Very simple puzzle room, but at the end of the day, it's just fun. It's my favorite level that isn't from Chapter 8. But speaking of Chapter 8, so, I'm pretty sure you guys can clearly tell that I like the endgame of Super Paper Mario. All of Chapter 8 is the top 4. I really like the last part of the game. It's just so fun. All of Castle Black has great music. It's just really fun to go through. I mean, it's very intense. But 8-4, it has all that stuff, but it doesn't really add on to any of it. And that's mainly because you're left with only Mario and Tippy puzzles. Also some of the pixels, but a lot of that was already used for other levels. So, I mean, you could flip it to 3D, which leads into probably the worst part about Castle Black. And, I mean, you have Tippy puzzles, which I'm never really that much of a fan of because it uses motion controls. But the maze that you guys have all been waiting for me to talk about, I don't mind it too much. I think it's the worst part of Castle Black, but I love this place. And I really don't hate anything in it or really dislike anything. So, because of that, I don't completely hate the maze. I just don't like that you're stuck in 3D for a while. That's pretty annoying because you keep taking damage. But that's really the only thing I was annoyed about. I didn't really mind getting lost too much. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was just continuously jamming out to the music. That's really the only thing I can think of. Because the music in Castle Black, I'm going to tell you right now, Castle Black is my favorite theme of all of Super Paper Mario. So that's obviously going to boost this place up completely. But it's definitely the worst out of the 4 levels in Chapter 8 just because of the maze and the tippy puzzles. So because of that, it's only number 4 on the list. "8-1 is not only an awesome level, but it's actually kind of a nostalgic level. I'll get to that in a little bit. But 8-1, it's the first level you're going into Castle Bleck, the place that has been built up throughout the entire game. The music is amazing, I love how the place looks, the enemies are really difficult to deal with, I think the puzzles are decent enough, but it's also nostalgic because this level focuses on the areas that you originally were with both Peach and Luigi near the beginning of the game. That's what interests me the most. You can go to those specific areas, and they are verbatim what you saw, which is so interesting, and you have to go to those areas. It's just very interesting for me personally to see, and that's my favorite part of the level. I think the puzzles they could have been better. I mean, I wish they used Bowser a little bit more, and okay, it kind of leads me to my problem with this level, because 8-2 and 8-3 exist. I mean, if my problem is going to relate to what this level doesn't have, I mean, that shows how good this level actually is, because you don't have problems with the level specifically. That's a great thing. But 8-2 and 8-3 really rely on Peach and Luigi and what they can do, and both Mimi and Dementio, and puzzles with them. But with 8-1, it really doesn't do that with Bowser. It does it a little bit, I mean, it uses a little bit of flames, but it doesn't use much. It's not really noticeable, and it really doesn't have anything to do with those chunks. So in that regard, it's not as good as 8-2 and 8-3. They just did a little bit more that actually made it more memorable. 8-1, in my opinion, is probably the least memorable out of the 4. So because of that, it is the second worst. But obviously, it's number 3 on this list. I love this level, and I love literally everything about it. And it's why it's number 3. Eight 2 is almost a perfect level to me. I love this level so much. Obviously, it's the music. I really like the look of Castle Bleck. But this level is focused around Mimi. And Mimi likes to change into different characters. She first changes into Merlin, tricks you with an item block, and you fall to a jail cell. It's kind of interesting to figure out which way you need to get out. And I like that puzzle. It is a little bit simplistic with what you have to do, but it's pretty good nonetheless. But then you get back up, and you have to talk to Merly, a fake Merly, of course. And she asks, what are you scared of? And there's a lot of options. My personal favorite is that you can pick Francis. You can have another Francis fight. I personally picked that, even though I know it was a really bad idea. But it's just fun and enjoyable to see. And that's what I like about this level. But then you fight Mimi. Again, I'm not going to mention that part. But at the end of the day, very unique concepts. I really like that part of the level. I mean, it's about Mimi. It's not too much about Peach, but it's so much about Mimi, and it's just so enjoyable to go through. My only problem, and the only thing that doesn't make this level perfect, is that I wish there was more puzzles aside from what Mimi did. There was really only the jail cell and just escaping that, which was good. It was enjoyable to get out, but that's really the only part of the level that was puzzle-oriented. That's it. I wish there was more to it. And again, if the problem is that I wish there was more, it shows how great the level really is. This is the number 2 spot for a reason, and I really enjoy this level. Dementio is crazy, so you expect 8-3 to represent what Dementio actually is, and that's exactly what this level does, and it's why it's my favorite in the game. 8-3, it's my favorite, it's number 1, this level is perfect in my opinion. I don't find anything wrong about it. Obviously the music at Castle Bleck is great, I love how this place looks. Before you actually talk to Dementio, there's so many great rooms. I mean, you can go into places with you can attack with bullets, but you can also go behind and get some items. The second mirror room, though, is my favorite room in the entire castle, where you go behind it, And there is so many copies of Dementio. There's so many, you have to use a pixel like Cudge to get rid of them. Now, they don't hurt you, but they get in your way, and they're just constantly pushing you left and right. It's just very weird. It's just something that you would expect Dementio to have in his place. It's so cool, and I really do enjoy it. And obviously, it's satisfying to hit them away. But the best part about this level, I haven't even talked about. It's when you talk to Dementio, and then you go on a wild goose chase. It's just fun. You go through one level for and it just brings back a ton of nostalgia that you would go on. You go through 1-1, 2-3, 3-2, 4-2, I think 5- I don't remember the one from chapter 5. But chapter 6, you have the Void. For chapter 7, you have 7-2. I don't like that level, but hey, it's Dementio, so I'll let it slide. And then you go back to Castle Black. All those memories of playing through the game, it just comes back to this one moment. And it's very odd because it's not the actual level, and it makes sure that you know that because you can't actually go through doors. But it just makes it so enjoyable that you go through all parts of the level. I enjoy when any video game does this, so I'm glad that Super Paper Mario actually brought it into this one. I love every part of the level. Obviously, it's trying to represent Dementio. The music, the looks, the puzzles, the boss. I mean, everything. Again, I'm not talking about the boss, but just Dementio himself. There's so many good concepts. Everything works in this level, and it's why it's my favorite level in Super Paper Mario. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you actually liked any last of the song, please subscribe and also make sure to leave a like. And also, I have a podcast called The Flatmates. I'll have it on the screen right now in the description below. But other than that, G-bye.